"I can't live without a man," said the giant widow. The rancher let her stay all night. Sarah had buried 3 men with her bare hands, her father, her brother, her husband, each death carving deeper wounds into her soul. When she collapsed sobbing in Rancher Cole's arms, confessing her desperate need, he realized this woman who could break horses and build barns was dying inside from a loneliness so brutal it was killing her. That night changed everything, because sometimes the strongest people are just broken children in grown-up bodies, waiting for someone brave enough to hold their pieces together. The sun had barely dipped below the prairie line when Cole stepped out of his barn and saw her. At first, he thought it was a bear, something massive crouched in the tall yellow grass. But as he walked closer, hand hovering over the grip of his rifle, the shape took form. It was a woman. A massive woman. Her skin was sunburnt and dirt-smeared, her white dress torn and browned by dust and sweat. She sat crumpled like a fallen pillar, arms wrapped around herself, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Her size was intimidating, but her posture was one of complete defeat. Cole said nothing at first. He only watched. Watched the way her fingers dug into her own flesh, like she was trying to hold herself from coming apart. Then she whispered it. "I can't live without a man." Her voice was hoarse and low, but it hit him like a thunderclap. She didn't even look at him. Didn't care who heard. It wasn't a cry for help, it was a confession. Raw. Cracked. True. Cole could have walked away. 100 times, he'd promised himself never to get involved again. After losing his wife 3 winters ago, he'd made peace with the silence, the solitude, the ache. But something in the way she said it, like a child abandoned in a world too big, it broke something open in him. He took one step. Then another. He didn't speak until he was close enough to see the tear streaks running through the dirt on her cheeks. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She looked up, startled. Her eyes were pale blue, almost gray. Her voice caught. "Sarah." He held out a hand, not to shake, just to offer. "Come inside. You can rest in the barn tonight. No one's gonna touch you here." She flinched but took his hand. Her palm swallowed his. As she stood, Cole could feel the weight of her. Not just her size, but the years. The grief. The survival. She didn't ask for his name. That night, as the moon rose over the plains, Sarah lay curled on a bed of hay while Cole sat by the barn door, rifle across his lap. Every few minutes, she'd shift, whimper, mumble names in her sleep: Luke. Daddy. Jeremiah. Cole never asked who they were. At one point, just before dawn, she sat up. The lantern cast a glow across her face, sweaty, tired, eyes wide. "I buried them all," she said, staring straight ahead. "All 3. With these hands." Cole didn't answer. "I carried my brother after the fever took him. My father froze to death driving cattle in a blizzard. And my husband," her voice cracked. "He took one look at me the morning I lost the baby, said I was too big, too loud, too cursed, and he rode off. He died 2 weeks later in a saloon brawl. They found his body by the river." She turned to Cole, eyes shimmering with a quiet fury. "I never got to cry. Not once. Because I thought strength meant swallowing pain. But I'm done swallowing. I want to feel again. Even if it kills me." Cole finally looked at her. His voice was low. "You're not weak for needing someone. You're human." She leaned back, exhausted. "You letting me stay was the first kind thing a man's done for me in years." He stood and walked to the barn door, looking out into the night. "You can stay more than a night if you want. Nobody'll bother you here." She didn't answer. But as he turned to leave, he saw her lay her massive hand across her chest, right where her heart had been locked away. Cole walked back to the cabin. She followed at sunrise. No words. Just followed. He didn't tell her to stop. When they reached the porch, she sat on the steps. Her legs were too long for the wooden planks. Her head bowed low. I won't beg. If you want me gone, just say it. Cole dropped a metal cup beside her. Water. Cold. Clean. I didn't ask you to leave. For the first time, her lip quivered. She drank. Then asked without looking up, you ever been alone so long it stops hurting? Hurts different, he said. But it still hurts. She laughed softly. It was bitter, hollow. That's what scares me. I've stopped feeling. I look at trees, sunsets, animals, and it's just quiet. Like the world died and nobody noticed. Cole took off his hat, sat beside her. I noticed. Silence fell again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. Just still. Then came the sound, hooves. Distant. Getting closer. Sarah froze. They found me, she whispered. Cole stood, rifle already in hand. Who? My husband's cousins. Said I owed them the land. They chased me halfway across the valley. Said a woman like me didn't deserve property, only punishment. Cole looked down at her. You're safe here. You don't know them, she said. They'd rather burn the house down than let me sleep under it. Cole didn't blink. Then I'll stand in the ashes. She stared at him, this quiet man with calloused hands and eyes like storm clouds. Why? Because no one should die for needing a home. Sarah stood, slow and towering. Her fists clenched, but not in fear. In resolve. Then let's see if your roof can hold both of us. The wind shifted just before noon. Dry and sharp, it carried with it a sound that wasn't natural, the rattling echo of spurs and steel. Sarah stood near the fence post, gripping the wooden beam with both hands, watching Cole hammer a new latch into place. Her breath caught. They're coming, she said, barely above a whisper. Cole paused, then turned slowly to look past her shoulder. He didn't ask how she knew. He could feel it too, the tension in the air, the kind of silence that only shows up before things break. He set the hammer down and wiped his hands on his jeans. How many? I don't know, Sarah replied. But if they're the ones I think, it won't be just talk this time. They'll come ready. She looked away, jaw clenched. They called me a freak. Said no man would ever want a woman like me unless she was on her knees or behind a plow. Cole stared at her. You believe that? He asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she walked past him and yanked the double-hinged gate shut, her giant arms flexing as she slammed the bolt through the slot. Dust kicked up around her boots. Her chest rose and fell hard, fast, like a steam engine trying to stop mid-track. Cole followed her into the cabin. She was already pacing, fists tight. I stayed quiet when my husband used to drink himself stupid and curse me for not giving him a son. I said nothing when they laughed at me at church, too big for the pews, too loud in my grief. She turned suddenly. But I can't be quiet anymore, Cole. I've been silent so long I don't even recognize my own voice. Cole knelt beside the trunk at the end of the bed and opened it. Inside were 3 rifles, 2 old revolvers, and a box of hand-loaded shells. He looked up at her. Then make em hear you. Sarah's eyes watered, but not from sorrow. From something deeper. Recognition. This man, who had said almost nothing last night, had just said everything she needed to hear. By sundown, the yard was transformed. Barrels flipped, sandbags stacked, lines of sight cleared. Sarah dug a trench along the side wall with her bare hands. She hauled fence rails like they were twigs and wrapped barbed wire across the posts faster than Cole could nail them. As the last light faded, they sat on the porch, sweat clinging to their skin, the world around them dipped in red and gold. Cole lit a cigarette, handed it to her. Sarah took one slow drag, then laughed under her breath. I ain't smoked since my wedding night. Cole glanced at her. Was it a good night? She looked at the stars, her face unreadable. It ended with me crying in a barn. Neither of them said anything after that for a while. Then Cole reached into his shirt pocket and handed her a tiny item, a broken silver ring. The inside was engraved with a name. Anna. My wife, he said. Buried her out by the orchard. She used to say I was too stubborn to cry. Sarah looked down at the ring, then up at him. Did you love her? I still do. That made Sarah pause. I've never been loved. Not really. Not without conditions. Not without someone wanting something in return. Cole didn't look away. I don't want anything from you, Sarah. Except the truth. Her throat tightened. I'm scared, she whispered. I've never said that out loud before. But I'm scared that even if we win, I'll still be empty inside. Cole leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. You're not empty. You're just waiting for something that hasn't been stolen yet. Sarah blinked fast. I thought it had all been stolen already. Not all of it, he said. Not tonight. She wiped her face with the back of her forearm. Her arm alone was the size of his thigh, but right now she looked like a little girl trying not to cry. He stood up, walked to the door, and paused. If they come tomorrow, we fight. But if we make it through, I'd like you to stay. Not just in the barn. Not just for the work. She froze. You're asking me to stay? I'm telling you. This place, it's been dead a long time. You're the first thing that's felt alive in it. She lowered her head. For the first time, a tear slipped down her cheek. But it wasn't grief. It was hope. The wind howled through the trees that night. Neither of them slept much. Cole sat by the window, rifle across his lap, boots planted firm on the wooden floor. Sarah paced the cabin like a bear locked in too small a cage. When the sky began to turn silver, she stepped outside and stood in the yard. Then came the sound. Hoofs. Dozens of them. Cole stepped out beside her. 3 wagons. 10 riders. Dust curling behind them like smoke. At the front, a man with a long black coat and a scar across his throat pulled up his reins. That's her, he barked. Big Sarah. Sarah didn't flinch. Cole stepped forward. She's here. She's under my roof now. The scarred man spit into the dust. Not your business, rancher. She stole land. Lied. Turned men into cowards. Cole raised his rifle. She hasn't lied once since she got here. And the only coward I see is the one bringing a dozen men to fight a woman. The man's face twisted. You'll die for her? Cole didn't answer. Sarah stepped up beside him. I've been dead a long time, she said. But he made me feel alive again. So if I die today, I die standing next to the first man who didn't want to shrink me. The men didn't move. The wind kicked up more dust. Then the scarred man laughed. We'll be back. And next time we won't talk. He turned his horse. But Sarah didn't step back. And neither did Cole. The sky turned rust red the next morning, casting long, warped shadows across the prairie. Cole was already outside, oiling the hinges on the front gate. His hands moved without thought, but his eyes kept drifting toward the horizon. Sarah stood at the edge of the property line, one hand on the post, her fingers curled tightly around the splintered wood. She had barely spoken since the scarred man rode off, but her silence wasn't fear, it was calculation. That old fire inside her had finally found oxygen. They'll come back, she said. Cole didn't need to answer. She turned toward him. We can't win this, can we? He shrugged. Maybe not. Then why stay? He wiped his hands and looked her dead in the eye. Because staying means something. Running just makes the next place smaller. She breathed hard through her nose. I spent my whole life running. Cole tossed the rag into the bucket and walked up to her. You said you couldn't live without a man. He paused. But you've survived without one longer than most men I've known. You don't need anyone, Sarah. But maybe, for once, you just deserve someone. Her throat caught. She wasn't used to being told she deserved anything. I don't know how to be gentle, she said. I'm not asking you to be. I break things. So do storms, he said. But the land grows better after. That night, the stars blinked like they were trying to warn the earth. Cole sat on the porch with a bottle of whiskey between his boots. Sarah joined him with a thick wool blanket draped around her massive shoulders, her feet bare in the dirt. She didn't speak for a long time. Then, quietly, if they kill you tomorrow, I won't recover. Cole turned slowly toward her. You will, he said. But I'd rather not make you prove it. She let out a breath that trembled as it left her chest. I'm scared again. He nodded. Good. Means you've got something to lose. There was no kiss. No dramatic embrace. Just two people sitting close enough that their shoulders touched, breathing the same wind, sharing the same fear. It was the most romantic thing Sarah had ever known. At dawn, they were ready. They had reinforced the barn, dug shallow trenches along the front yard, and lined the windows with broken chairs and sandbags. Sarah had fashioned a weapon from an iron fence post and a loop of barbed wire. She looked like a warrior. But her eyes were soft. She caught Cole staring. What? She asked. You ever think maybe you were born too big for this world? Sarah grinned. Every day. Good, he said. Because I think the world's been too small for too long. The sun rose blood orange. Then came the thunder. Not sky thunder, hoof thunder. 20 riders. Guns drawn. Faces hard. They circled the ranch like wolves. The scarred man stopped out front, raising a black-gloved hand. Last chance, rancher. Give her up. Cole stepped out first. I told you yesterday. She's staying. The scarred man nodded. Then die with her. He gave the signal. The first shot cracked the sky. Cole fired back, dropping one rider clean off his horse. The yard erupted. Bullets tore through fence posts, chipped the doorframe, smashed windows. Sarah roared. Not screamed, roared. She charged forward, swinging the iron post like it was a feather. One man tried to meet her head-on. His horse bucked and ran as she slammed him into the dirt with one blow. Cole covered her from the porch, firing one round after another. Smoke filled the air. Horses reared. Men shouted. Sarah fought like a storm. For the first time in her life, no one mocked her size. No one laughed at her strength. They ran from it. Two men tried to flank her. She caught one by the collar and spun him into the post. The other got close enough to slash her arm with a blade. She didn't feel it. She only saw Cole, cornered, out of bullets, backing into the barn. She screamed his name and sprinted. The man raised his gun, too late. She tackled him off his feet and cracked his rifle in half. Cole stared at her, breathless. You okay? She asked. He blinked. You just saved my life. I'm not done yet. Together, they drove the last few riders off. When the dust cleared, 4 men lay wounded. The rest vanished over the ridge, their pride shattered, their rage useless. Sarah dropped to her knees in the dirt, breathing hard. Blood ran down her arm. Her dress was ripped, her knuckles split open. Cole sat beside her. Neither spoke. Not yet. After a long silence, he reached out and took her massive hand in his. She didn't pull away. He whispered, You said you can't live without a man. She turned her head, eyes wet. I lied. He tilted his head. You did? She nodded slowly. I can live. I don't want to anymore. Not without you. The quiet that followed wasn't heavy. It was sacred. Cole stood and pulled her up. Her feet were unsteady. He caught her. They walked back to the cabin side by side. Bloodied. Bruised. Unbroken. When they reached the porch, she looked at the place that had become more than a shelter. I don't want to leave. He shook his head. You're not going anywhere. The prairie was quiet the next morning. Not the silence of dread, but the kind of silence that comes after a storm has done its worst, and failed to destroy what mattered. The yard was littered with spent shells, broken wood, torn earth, and a single blood-stained fence post. The barn door hung loose on its hinge. Smoke still curled gently from the chimney. Sarah stood barefoot in the middle of the wreckage. The early sun painted gold across her bruised arms, her torn dress clinging to her skin. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shaking. She looked like a statue carved by pain and fire, and still standing. Cole emerged from the cabin with a basin of water. He walked up behind her and gently set it down. You're still bleeding, he said softly. I've bled worse, she answered, then turned to him. But this time, her eyes weren't full of rage or pride. They were just full. I've never stood still like this, she whispered. Everywhere I've gone, I was either chased, or leaving. Cole crouched down and began washing the blood from her arm. His hands were rough, but his touch was careful. You're not running anymore, he said. And you're not pushing me away. He looked up at her, the sun casting lines across his weathered face. No. I'm not. She let out a shaky breath, one hand gripping the edge of the porch post. I used to believe I wasn't built for love. I was built to plow fields, carry caskets, dig graves. That was my role, be the strong one. So nobody had to carry me. Cole rose slowly and stood in front of her, face to face. Then let me carry you now, he said. That broke her. The tear fell without warning. Just one. But it was more than she'd let herself feel in years. He reached for her hand. She hesitated. I don't know how to be small, she said. You don't have to be, he replied. I'm not afraid of your size. I'm afraid of a world that tried to shrink you. She smiled, and this time, it reached all the way to her eyes. She stepped forward, wrapped her arms around him, and held him like she was afraid to let go, not because she was weak, but because she'd finally found something worth holding. Cole buried his face in her shoulder. She smelled like dirt and wood smoke and the iron edge of blood. But he'd never breathed in anything more alive. Later that day, they worked the land together. Sarah rebuilt the broken fence. Cole rehung the barn door. They moved like they'd been doing it for years, in sync, side by side, no instructions needed. That afternoon, the rain came. Not hard. Not a storm. Just a soft, steady fall like the sky had finally decided to cry for them. Sarah walked into the middle of the yard and tilted her head back, eyes closed, mouth parted. She let it wash her. The blood. The sweat. The past. Cole watched her from the porch, then stepped down and joined her. The rain soaked his shirt in seconds. He didn't care. She opened her eyes and looked at him. I used to believe I needed a man just to survive. But now I think. He waited. She reached up, her fingertips brushing his cheek, gentle in a way no one thought she could be. Now I think I just needed someone who saw me. All of me. And stayed. I stayed, Cole said. She leaned her forehead to his. And I'm staying too. That night, they lit a fire in the yard. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. She leaned against his shoulder, his arm draped across her back. They watched the stars come out one by one. The sky above them stretched wide and free. And for the first time in her life, Sarah felt small, not in the way the world tried to make her, but in the way only love can make someone feel. Safe. Held. Enough. The wind carried the scent of cedar and earth and something new. In that space, between firelight and stars, a home was born. Not just a cabin. Not just a ranch. but a home built from scars, and trust, and the boldness of two people who didn't walk away. And when Sarah whispered, "I think I'm ready to love without fear," Cole didn't say a word. He just pulled her closer. Because sometimes the only answer you need is to stay. Thank you for staying with us through this powerful journey. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that even the strongest hearts can long to be seen, and even the loneliest places can become home, then don't leave just yet. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss a tale like this again. We've got more Wild West stories filled with heartbreak, redemption, love, and survival, and I want you right there with me for every single one. Your next favorite story is already waiting. I'll see you in the next one.